Hey, friend, it's Lori Pine, the Joy CEO, and I am so glad to be here with you today. Ever feel like you're walking around in a fog? Part of you is so ready to lean into your big dreams, to your next chapter, to the wealth and to the responsibility you know you are so capable of. You know you're like so ready for and itching for. But other parts of you feel shackled. And to what? You're not even sure. There's some uncertainty, some vagueness, and all those actions you have yet to take are just sitting on that I'll do it someday list. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so glad you found your way to us. And to everyone who's been on this journey with me, thank you so much for showing up week after week. Today, we're going to talk about the stuff we avoid, the financial clutter, the hard things that don't feel urgent until they're absolutely urgent, 5-star, ring the bell, urgent, the will that's been sitting unsigned, the subscriptions that are just bleeding money from your bank account every month that you completely forgot that you signed up for, the budget that you've been meaning to create. And more importantly, we're talking about how to actually tackle this stuff without completely overwhelming yourself, without it becoming a second full-time job. So I'm going to share what happened when I finally hired a financial coach, even though my husband is a financial advisor and has all sorts of advice. I needed somebody who could talk to me in my own language. And it really started to clear the fog for me. Some of it was so uncomfortable. Some of it made me angry. And all of it gave me back my oxygen. And I can't wait to share this episode with you. So let's dig in. What if all of those thoughts were playing on loop in the background of your mind, preventing you from being fully present, fully alive, fully yourself? You can't even show up without all of that dragging around with you like that old Walmart bag we've been talking about. It's all just clutter, jamming you up. We know some of it needs immediate attention. The boss, the project, the kids, the Valentine's Day parties. Like we know what we have to pay attention to today, this week. You have planners, you have calendars, you have digital ones, you have paper ones, you write it down, you have to-do lists. You are the queen of all that. But what about the things on the not today, not tomorrow, not even this month list? The things that just keep getting regurgitated, recycled, moved from list to list that you never quite actually have the time to tackle, like creating a will, setting up college funds, deep diving into your financials so that you know where your money actually goes, creating a budget. How much do you actually spend on Amazon every month? Holy smokes. Let me tell you, this one was mind-blowing. Do you have enough to retire? How much are you even going to need to retire? What if one of you dies? What happens? Do you even have any life insurance? Or how much life insurance would you need if, God forbid, Jesus, hear me now, something happened that was catastrophic? We avoid this stuff because nothing bad happens today. And our brain is screaming about the project deadline and the Valentine's party and the what's for dinner and who's coming this weekend and who's going this weekend. But the will, the life insurance, well, that can just wait until guess what? One day it can't wait and it might be too late. When I was 39, I was a single mom and I had 2 little boys, 7 and 9. And I knew somewhere in the heart of hearts, the depth of my soul, that I did not have enough life insurance. I don't know where this knowing came from, but it was my intuition, if you will. And so I knew that if I died and I was the only fiscally responsible parent, that there was not enough. My company offered, the standard life insurance, but that wasn't going to be enough to get them through 15 years of living expenses, college, and weddings. And so I took action. I asked around, does anybody know anybody? My friend Jane introduced me to this guy down in New Jersey. Little did I know that would become Michael Pine, my now husband. So the man who sold me life insurance and rolled over a 401k for me and cleaned up some of this stuff and made sure that I was in good working order would become the man I would marry. But I knew that I needed help, and I took the action to seek out somebody who could help me. All of that stuff was running around in my head. The fear of what if I died, the fear of if there wasn't enough. And likely some of that stuff is running around for you too. And here's what happens. It steals your oxygen. It puts out the fire. Everything you've worked for could be gone in just an instant if you don't plan properly. I'll never forget when the boys were little, there was this little family and we were really fond of them. Jackson loved one of the little boys in his class. And it was a really warm June evening when we got the phone call that the dad had gone out for a ride on his motorcycle and there was a terrible accident and he didn't make it. And that little family did not have life insurance. And it was tragic enough that that mom lost her beloved, and I mean beloved husband, father, partner, love of her life. But she also became financially devastated overnight. She had been a stay-at-home mom. She'd given up her career to raise her children. And she now had 3 little boys, and they had to sell their home, move into an apartment, and she started a job that really paid very little. And their life was really turned upside down. And I remember Jackson being at that funeral, and that little boy had his hand out the window, in the motorcade, like going to the cemetery. And Jackson put his hand up against the little boy's hand through the glass. And it was just the most precious, innocent little gesture that can actually happen. So you just never know. We're never guaranteed tomorrow. What is it that you might be avoiding right now, or just putting off, just delaying because it's not urgent today? Perhaps it's one of these many things I'm talking about. Perhaps it's something that's not even on the list I just gave, but it's something that's really important to you. Recently, I hired a financial coach. In full transparency, this has not been easy to go from working a big corporate job to then becoming a stay-at-home mom to then starting my own company and this whole entrepreneurial journey. And I needed to hire somebody to help me with my emotions around money. It was a really big shift for me when I went from having this very secure paycheck every 2 weeks to then being a stay-at-home mom and the emotional adjustment to not having that, to then starting my own company where I actually had to invest in the company to get things going and to get things up and running, to then knowing what to charge, knowing what my worth was, knowing, what to say yes to, what to say no to, what to show up for, what to have boundaries for. And all of that, I needed some reinforcement for. I needed reinforcement that 1, women deserve to be paid. 2, that experts like me deserve to be paid more than average. I have 25 years of corporate experience, and that matters. That counts for something. And then 3, the precedent that I set impacts the women who will come after me. So for example, if I offered speak as a keynote for $5,000 when the going rate is $15,000, well, that impacts the woman who comes behind me and says, I require $15,000. And the conference or the event planner says, well, we just got somebody who paid five. That does not set a good precedent. So why would I, one, undervalue my services? And two, why would I do that to the woman coming behind me who knows her own worth? I had to get right with my own emotions around money, around being paid a fair and proper wage. So hiring this coach has really helped me tremendously. She dug into my money story. How was I raised with money growing up? How have I dealt with money? What did I see? What have I learned? What was it like to be on my own and not be able to count on anyone financially for more than 2 decades? And then the impact that that had. She also really dug into, what does generosity mean for me? It's one of my core values in both my personal life and my business life. But where was that generosity showing up and sabotaging me? And so somewhere along the way, I had become frozen and stuck. And she really helped me to get moving again with some of these hard decisions, these hard conversations, these, I suppose they were things that I didn't even realize I was frozen or stuck on. And it's really been quite remarkable. So what did I actually tackle? What was the work I actually needed to do? Well, I had a will that was literally buried on my desk and had been there for 2 years. So I dusted it off. I read through it, made some changes, sent it back to the attorney, and then got a new printed version of it that was ready to be signed, went to the notary and signed it. Done. Finally, 2 years later, done. Then I went through every single bank transaction from 2025. Why? I wanted to know where my money was going because it felt like I had money, I made money, but where was it leaking to? All the time. And so I downloaded every single charge into a CSV file where I could then sort it, manipulate it, pivot table it, sort by, column, what have you. And I assigned each and every transaction to a category. And then once I did that, I was really able to know where everything went. Now, asterisks to this, I was so overwhelmed by the Amazon charges and how difficult it was to actually find out on Amazon how much I spent, what it was spent on. I had to go through every single invoice. And even that, it didn't seem to ever match up perfectly to every single charge. And I think Amazon probably does that on purpose because they just want you to keep spending money with them. And here is a headline. We were spending about $1,700 a month on Amazon. One charge here, one charge there, automatic subscription here, this, that, the other thing. They make it so easy. And when I look around, I don't even know if I have anything to show for all that Amazon stuff. It's almost like it's garbage. So big aha on the Amazon category. But then I got really clear about the other categories: groceries, house expenses, clothing, what I spend on my boys, eating out, vacations, crystal clear today. And that really matters. The next thing I tackled was subscriptions. All of these are such a sneaky little bear because some were on PayPal, some were in Apple, some were in email. Some I didn't even know existed. I had no recollection of signing up for them. So the PayPal ones definitely flew under the radar. I spent time fighting to get reimbursed for those. And here's the thing. I got back $785 in subscription fees from PayPal. I had to go directly to the source. I had to email them. I had to show them proof that I didn't have a login. I had to show them proof I hadn't used their app. Whatever it was, $785 I got refunded. And the last thing I tackled was my closet. It was a mess. There was too much in there. Not necessary. Cleaned it out, made piles to donate to, friends or family who could use my lovely, well-loved, hardly worn clothing, and then a pile for Goodwill. And I actually dropped them off. They were donated. They are out of my house. And so you can ask, how did it feel to get all of that accomplished in the month of January 2026? I can tell you, the Amazon stuff really kind of made me angry. Like, really? That felt like I wasted money. Like, I really don't know what I have to show for the Amazon stuff. Like, it was a bunch of garbage. And I was a little disgusted with myself. So I made a vow to stop. I cannot just purchase anything off of Amazon. I made that commitment. I could only put it in the cart. And now once a weekend, my husband and I have a meeting and I decide if after a few days, a week, if I'm still even interested in purchasing that thing. And so far, I have not been interested. I just delete it. And then the will, I actually feel really grateful. One, that I got it done. And two, that nothing happened to me that jeopardized my husband or my children. And there's a lot of relief that it's complete. Like, nice job. Way to go. There's an atta girl for that. So here's the question I had to ask myself, and perhaps you might want to ask yourself. Would God give you more money if he saw the way you were handling what you had now? And I heard this asked in for another forum, and it's really profound. Like, if I want to grow this business and I want it to become something substantial, if God looked at the way I was handling my finances and the financial aspect of this business, would he give me more? And I wanted to make sure I had enough humility to answer that honestly. I think that God knows that we're worthy. It's just a question of, do we know that we're worthy? And if we truly believe that we're worthy of wealth, worthy of security, worthy of abundance, wouldn't you treat it that way and prioritize these very important things that way? So here's the deal. You really work hard to earn your money. You spend hours and hours at your job, at your desk, at your computer. It's a hustle. It's a grind. You're constantly proving yourselves worthy of your paycheck, of your promotion, of the raise, of the customers and clients and everybody that you deal with. But then we just kind of let it slip through our fingers. We're just, doling out money like we're a baller, $1,700 a month to Amazon. Like money's just growing on trees. And we know it's not. The subscriptions we didn't even know we signed up for or we forgot about. No plan, no budget, no real roadmap. So I don't know. It just seems kind of backwards to me. We work these 60-hour weeks to earn it all, but we don't spend 2 hours a week to look at where it's going or, what we're actually doing with it or where we want it to go, how we want it to serve us, when we're well into our 60s, 70s, and 80s, and that legacy we want to have with it. So we'll hustle for more, but we're not really stewarding what we actually have. And stewarding is such a great word. That's what we're here to do, is be the stewards. Everyone has anxiety about this stuff. Nobody's like, oh, let me just sit down. I can't wait. This is going to be the best day to do all this. And I think most of us avoid it. So I'm probably not the only one with a will who's been in draft mode on my desk for 2 years. I'm sure I'm not. I'm certain, that I'm not the only one who had $785 in subscriptions that I didn't even know about. By the way, that was over like an 18-month period. And here's the thing. We don't have to keep avoiding it. We don't have to keep letting that be the loop in the back of our mind, kind of reinforcing that we're not doing a good job. So how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time, of course. Step one, choose one hard thing. Choose one thing that's on this list of yours. Maybe it's the will. Maybe it's the subscriptions. Maybe it's getting clarity about where your money is going. 2, get an accountability partner. None of this is really easy to do when we're living in a vacuum all by ourselves, thinking, oh my gosh, I suck. I haven't done this. I need to do this. I want to do this, because then we just stay on a loop with that. So get an accountability partner. Maybe it's your spouse. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's not a safe place for you. Maybe it's a best friend. Maybe, it's a best friend who needs to do the exact same thing. So then you can keep each other engaged and on the right track. Maybe it's a coach. Maybe someone who's going to ask you, did you do the thing? And, just remember, left to your own devices, you're going to find 17 reasons why this week is not the right week. So if nothing changes, nothing changes. But you know that. So step 3, keep going when it gets hard, or when you come up against a roadblock, or when you come up against something that you don't want to do. I don't know if any of you listened to the episode where I interviewed Michael Pine, my husband. I'll just tell you, I was the worst client getting life insurance. It took 9 months, and thank God he is a persistent man. And he reminded me why I called him, why I wanted the life insurance. But I avoided him for a long time through that process. I didn't return phone calls. And then finally, you'll hear in that episode, one day he called me and I was like, oh God, okay, fine. So just when it gets hard, just keep going. When you want to quit, when you're halfway through, that's where the accountability person's going to come in. You're going to find something awful, like the realization of how much you're spending on Amazon. You're like, oh God, that sickens my stomach. You're going to want to close the laptop and pretend you never even looked, like you don't even know that number's the reality. But remember, it's the vagueness and the avoidance that just keeps us in the fog, and it takes up so much space and energy rather than just handling it. It's actually easier to just handle it. And then the last step, step 4, you actually get to the finish line. And then you get the reward of doing the thing that you did. And that is such a good feeling. So let me ask you, have you ever sat on the edge of a lake on a foggy morning? The lake is still, but the fog just engulfs it. I think I've done this a million times at our cabin in Maine. We walk down the path, there's a little private beach and then a dock. And I sit on the dock with a cup of hot tea and I let that cool air kind of soak me in. I put a warm blanket around me. And what happens is that fog is thick and the steam is coming up from the water because the water is actually warmer than the cool air. And you can't see the mountains. You can't see the little island that's in the middle of the lake that's less than a kayak paddle away. You can't see anything. But if you sit there long enough, the sun will climb high enough into the sky and it will burn off all of that fog. And the sun will shine so brightly that you will start to see all of the fog just dissipate and all of the beauty will appear. The mountains, the island, the eagle who lives on the island in a nest, he'll swoop in because he's hungry and he needs a fish. You'll see the whole of the beach and all the cabins that align the beach. You'll see all the boats that are moored and into their anchors. And it's like nothing you can imagine when it all comes into its full delight. The loons are there and it's spectacular. And you would never want to miss it if you stayed stuck in the fog. My hope for you is that this is a nudge to get out of the fog, to take some action and make sure that you are positioning yourself to be in the sunlight and soak in all of the beauty. I sure am glad to be doing it with you. Until next time, I'm Lori Pine, the Joy CEO.